This is Intuitive Spirit Manifested 444, and I'm coming at you today to continue with the Astrology 101 video that I posted. In this video, I want to talk to you guys about the chart houses, your ascendant sign, and how it fits in your life, and why it's so important to know it. So when you're born, the time you were born, it says a lot about the planets that was rising and ascending when you were born. Your first house is the planet or sign that had ascended into the sky when you came into this life. So your first your first house, which is your ascendant sign, is the personality, your physical appearance, and how we project our self-image. Your ascendant sign is what people first see when they look at you. The way that you carry yourself, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way that you look, everything about you represents your ascendant sign. So odds are, that's the first impression that people are going to get. When you meet people and say, people come at you sometimes and they'll say, when I first saw you, I thought you were like a mean person, or I thought you was this way or that way. But then as I got to know you, I learned that you were like X, Y, and Z. Well, they're talking about your ascendant sign. When they first saw you, they basically made an assumption about you based off of the way that you looked, the way that your physical makeup was, the way you communicated. That's why it's very important to know that's one reason why it's very important to know your ascendant sign, to understand how you project yourself to the world, and to understand why the world perceives you a certain way. That's all about your ascendant sign. Whether you're a Pisces rising, Scorpio rising, Taurus rising, Libra rising, Gemini rising, the list goes on and on. Each zodiac sign is going to express themselves in a way that describes the planetary ruler of that sign. So Venus is ruled by, Leo is ruled by the sun. They're going to naturally take up all the attention. They are the kings and queens of the zodiac. They are the lions. So their hair is going to be very, very big, and it's going to stand out in some way, whether they don't even have hair at all. But their hair is going to be, you're going to notice their hair. And it's going to, usually they're going to have really nice hair. They take good care of their hair. A Gemini rising is a communicator. They're going to be expressing something to you. When you meet people like that, there's going to be a message that they have to send out in some way, either through the tattoos on their body, through verbal communication. Somehow they're communicating something to you about themselves. A Pisces rising is going to have beautiful eyes. They're going to have like this dreamy look about them. They're going to be always in their head a little. They're going to have very nice voices. It's going to be very soft voices, odds are. But it also depends on the Mercury that we have, because each aspect can alter, something about us. And that's why no two signs are the same. So that explains why when you'll meet a person who is a Sagittarius or two Tauruses, and you'll say, well, I met a Taurus that's like this and they wasn't like that, but I met another Taurus and they was a completely different way. That's because their physical makeup. Now, it may have been the same sign, but there's a lot of other things that go into why they are the way they are. A lot of other planetary aspects that are involved, which depicts how they are going to approach the world and approach others. The second house deals with possessions and value in external and internally. So value, the way that you value yourself, self-pride, the way that you, what are your values as a person? Are you someone who holds pride and dignity and respect, well, then you may have like a Leo in your second house. Therefore, you're going to value those type of things, like having pride, having dignity, being creative, being expressive, being seen, being noticed, having nice things. The second house is, if you have Virgo in your second house, you're going to value being intelligent. You're going to value the practicality of life, being practical, taking things step by step, having things planned out, method by method. You're going to be a very analytical person, and those are going to be your values. If you're a Libra, interestingly enough, if you have Libra in your second house, not only do you value beauty and the aesthetics part of life and beautiful clothing, beautiful paintings, artwork, but you're also the type where that brings into the next part. You're going to, it shows that you are going to partner with others as a way of making money. So your second house is also ways that you, collect money for yourself. How do you earn money? So the second house is your valuables, the way that you earn your money, the way that you respect yourself, the way you value yourself. What do you value? Is all in your second house. So again, going back to Leo in the second house, someone with Leo in the second house, the way that they will earn money is through the arts, through creativity, through the theatrical expressions. They'll be amazing with that, because that's all they, that's them. Someone with, let's see, like I said, Libra, you're going to go into a partnership instantly. Your partner is someone that you are going to earn income with. If you have Aries in your second house, you are an aggressive, you are aggressive when it comes to money. You make hasty decisions. You are a gambler. You take risks. You do what you have to do in terms of being, earning money. You are self-made. You are independent. You are boss-like when it comes to your money. And those are your values. You value things of Aries qualities, like, being assertive, being a boss, being self-made. Those are your values. Okay, and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on for each sign in that house. It's going to take on the characteristics of the sign in that house. The third house is short journeys. I also want to add that the second house also deals in terms of family. The second house is who you are in your family. So again, if you have Leo in your second house, and this is my observations again as an astrologer and studying the science, the metaphysical science for, basically most of my life. I have studied astrology, as I have stated in previous videos. And what I have noticed is that the second house is also who you are in your family. So if you have Virgo in your second house, everybody in the family sees you as the smart person, the practical person. If you have Leo in your house, everybody sees you as the Leo type in the family, the one who gets attention, the perhaps, the one with the drama queen, essence, the artsy person, the one who always looks nice, who's always well dressed, very prideful, etc., etc. The second house goes on and on in terms of those, in those areas, depending on the sign. Third house is the house of short journeys, siblings, or non-parental family, communication, and learning. So third house has a lot to do with your neighborhood. When you were growing up, who were you in the neighborhood? Who were you and your siblings? How did you and your siblings relate to each other? What was your relationship like with your siblings? What type of things did you do growing up? type of journeys did you take? Short journeys, like if you know went to the store, how did that process go about? Were you the type to kind of want to explore the world, and so you were the type to just, like a Sagittarius in the third house is someone who is just going to say, forget it, I'm gonna, when I leave out my house this morning, I'm going to ride a bike all the way up to the park, way up the street and around the corner, just for the adventure of it. You know, the journeys that you take, going, to your friend's house, playing in the neighborhood, going across the street, playing in the neighborhood with the kids, the journeys that you take, your siblings in your relationship. It describes, um, it describes your younger siblings, but I just believe, me personally, I believe it also describes your siblings in general, your relationships with your siblings. But yes, this is the house of younger siblings as well. It describes your relationships with them. It describes the kind of siblings that you had, or the kind of relationships that you have with the siblings. Whether if it's Capricorn, your relationship with them was not so much warm nature as it was serious. There probably was you or your sibling was probably the the serious one of you guys, the parent like one, the one who was always guiding and lecturing and stepping in and being the older sibling in some way, taking care of your siblings. You're very businesslike. You are someone who you're ambitious. You were just always a mature person growing up, and that's the way you spoke. You just was always mature in your relationship with your siblings. That's how you related to your siblings. Non-parental family members. In the fourth house, that is the house of your home, your parents, your foundation, and your social values. So your fourth house is this environment that's surrounding you when you came into the world. So it's going to describe the behaviors of those, your parents, or those that took care of you. It's going to describe the environment, the household. What was that household like that you grew up in? And thus, what did it become, for you internally? The fourth house is ruled by Cancer. So I like to look at this house as one of your moons, because it's what you feel close to, because it's what you know. So if you have, let's say, if you have Cancer in your fourth house, it's exalted there. You were, very much taken care of. You were like the baby of the family. Everybody, they took care of you. They watched out for you. They was very protective of you. And you were very, very much nurtured. You basically got all the needs that you needed taken in the fourth house. You got your needs. Your parents were loving and nurturing. They gave you lots of food. They bathed you. They spent time with you. They read with you. You got what you needed, because if it's in Cancer, it's exalted in the fourth house, which is home. If it's in Scorpio, your household was intense growing up. That is, Scorpio's ruled by Pluto, so there may have been a lot of like transformative things that took place in your household that kind of changed the way that you've seen the world. Maybe your parents were very intense, and so you're gonna have that intensity too, because that's the environment that you grew up in. You were close. You were used to being in intense environments where there was a lot of like high emotions running, and there was a lot of secrecy. Perhaps there were some things like you had a parent that her their rules was what goes on this house stays in this house, and you took that internally, like it's Scorpio in the fourth house is brings on this deep intensity into the fourth house. Your parents had the Plutonian energy, and thus your values will be scorpionic. The way that you interact with the world, the way that you feel. When you get around Scorpios, you're gonna understand that energy because that's what you grew up in. So on and so forth for each sign. Like I said, in the fourth house is going to describe the 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 family, the upbringing that you come from. And it's very, very important, so that it helps you to understand yourself and you know, where you're headed in life now. Fifth house is ruled by your creativity. How do you express yourself? It's also ruled by children. It's the house of Leo. And, Leos are very creative. They love children. They love to date. And, that's just the essence of a Leo. So the fifth house is everything in regards to that. Creativity, it describes your children, how they're going to be. It describes your childhood, how you were as a child. Your dating life, how do you date? This is just the courting, part of the dating life. But all of the things that involve expressing yourself, hobbies, interests, that is all in the fifth house. And the interesting thing about the fifth house is that if you look at your fifth house, that's all of that represents your children. So your children more than likely will exhibit the traits of the planets that are in the fifth house. If you have a Libra in your fifth house, you will have beautiful children. You will dress them, beautifully in nice clothes. You would love to, have this Libra-like essence with your kids. You just want them to look like, aesthetic, like the epitome of aesthetic beauty for them, for you. You are indifferent to children. You don't pick one child over the other. You treat all children the same. You, as a child, you were like Romeo and Juliet. You had lots of little boyfriends or girlfriends, lovers. You were quite the, you know, you know, the what do they call it? You were quite the little Romeo around, or the Juliet. You just always, oh, my boyfriend, young, and I'm talking about like elementary. Those are the kids that having that develop crushes early, and so your kids are going to be like that too. If you have Leo in your fifth house, well, that's exalted in the fifth house. So you are the star. When you were growing up, you were confident. You were creative. Your kids are going to be that way. Confident, creative children that likes to be in the spotlight. And you like to put your kids in the spotlight. You love to like show off your children. Every chance you get. When it comes to dating, you are the Leo. You are going to be the sun, the center of attention. You're going to rule that, area with it being there. And your kids are going to have that same, essence, as they grow. So, your expression is going to be big and gaudy and grand. That's Leo, Look at me. So, that's the fifth house. The sixth house rules work and health. How we experience and give and take in these areas. So your sixth house is actual work. It's actually every day doing, the daily grind. Making appointments, going to work. What do you do every day? How are you at work? Who are you at work? The sixth house, this is ruled by Virgo. So the practicalities of daily life is basically the sixth house. So each sign in there is going to spin its own story of how you operate on a day-to-day basis every day. yeah, that's pretty much it. It's your work and day-to-day basis. If you have Leo in your 6th house, you are someone who is a boss. Okay, you was meant to be the boss at work. You are a great person with organizing your practicalities. You are great with, making sure that your life is in order each day, handling the business that you need to handle. If you have Sagittarius on the 6th house cusp, you are a free-spirited person on a daily basis. At work, people see you as this philosophical, fun-loving, happy, the bosses love you type of person. Like, your people, everybody that works with you is going to love you. And especially because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, you're going to just experience so much luck on a daily basis. It's especially in regards to like working and stuff. Like, some people will be applying for a job for months and months. You'll apply and you'll get it that same week. You'll hear a call back from the manager. Because it's just luck. You just have this, magnetic belief and faith, that things are always going to work out, and they do, with it being in the 6th house. So yeah, like I said, each sign in the 6th house is going to, interpret it and spin its own story for how you do the day-to-day, businesses for yourself. Your 7th house rules in relationships, and our partnerships, or others' relationships to ourselves. So the 7th house is the others. So I spoke of the rising sign. The other term for rising sign is ascendant. So the 1st house is your ascendant. And the opposite of the 1st house, which is ruled by Aries, by the way, because Aries is the 1st sign. So again, that's why the 1st house is your ego. Along, it's, your ego base, your personality, 7th house is going to be your descendant. So it's going to be others. The ascendant is yourself and how you project yourself into the world. The 7th is your relationship with others. It's your relationships and partnerships. It's the other people. When you go out into the world, the energy that you receive from others. So if you're a Cancer ascendant, you are someone who is, very homely, very, nurturing. You're not the type that wants to have all the attention. You can be a little shy. You can be a little worrisome at times. You love your family. You love to cook. You love food. You probably carry snacks with you everywhere you go. Like a real Cancer. And you're very, you have this tough exterior, because Cancer's that shell. When they come out into the world, they have this tough exterior, but inside they're very sweet, loving, sensitive type of people. Well, but they're also very strong, mind you, okay? Very strong. Don't get the sweet, sensitive comments, They're very strong for my Cancer people. I'm a Cancer rising, by the way. Your 7th house will be the descendant. It will be others. So the energy that you see in others. So you're someone who, values family. You value having that strong security with your family. Well, how you see other people is they're cold, they're business-like, they're always just trying to climb to the top. Everybody's just trying to, climb to the top. But in relationships, you're going to be someone who wants someone who's ambitious. You're going to be someone who wants someone who is, serious about, their goals and ambitious and climbing to the top, who has a good reputation. Those are going to be qualities that you want. In business partnerships, those are the kind of business partners that that would be great for you. That would be exalted for you. Capricorn types will make great business partners for you. The seriousness of the Saturn will help to stabilize you and your emotions, because you're, as a Cancer rising, would be ruled by the moon. So, that's how you see the world. And that's how your relationships will be. Like, those are the type of people that you will tend to marry, though. Serious business types, goals-oriented, ambitious people. fatherly figures, because Saturn, uh, you know, would of course be on the opposite end of a Cancer ascendant. And so they're going to be, this fatherly figure, because Saturn is, the father, it's the karma. So that's that part of the seventh house. The eighth house is your shared possessions. So we're talking when you get married to a person, the shared possessions of that aspect. How we share our values, feelings, and sexuality. It's the part of us that only our lovers see. Only people that we are very intimate with sees. The knowledge that they gain from that part of us, that part that we keep buried deep within ourselves. Again, eighth house is ruled by Pluto, so that's a Scorpio house. So it's all things that are, very secretive, very, inside. You have to really dig out. Like, it comes through partnerships and sharing, and that's the part that we tend to hide. We don't show people all of that. But the eighth house is also our superpowers. So it's our inner strengths. How do we get over obstacles? How do we change our lives? How do we transform? Because eighth house is the transformative house. So in which ways do we transform? If you have Uranus, or if you have Aquarius in your eighth house, then you're going to, transform in very erratic, eccentric ways. It's going to shock people. It's going to surprise people, the way that you 1 minute you're here, you're doing this, the next minute you're going to transform and be a completely different person. But it's almost like in an exciting, eccentric kind of way. It's just like, wow, If you have, let's see, Capricorn in your eighth house, you are a very powerful person. Your superpower is that you get back up. Nothing can bring you down. No matter how many times you fall, you can get back up. You're going to have that power. You're going to have that inner authority within. It's not going to be, something that, you show outwardly, but people are going to see it, They're going to see that power and that strength within you. They're going to see how you're able to get back up each time. No matter how many times you fall, you are a boss. You are an authority figure. All the water houses within an eighth house are very, spiritual, very metaphysical, so they can transform within those areas of spirituality. So that's Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. They're very spiritual, and when they transform, that's how they're going to transform. That's how they're going to deal with their finances and their shared possessions. Sexuality and feelings as well. The way that Cancers, when they bottle things up and then they explode, that's the feelings, that's all in the eighth house. So if you have Cancer in your eighth house, you're someone who's very loving and very caring and very nurturing. But if you get really hurt, you will bottle it all up, and then you will, you're going to tell people off. You're going to turn into a completely different person, and then you're going to grow cold on them. You're going to just shut them out. So that's all things that deal with the eighth house. Ninth house involves long journeys. Remember I said in the third house that it was short journeys. Ninth house is long journeys. That's the Sagittarius house. It rules the physical, metaphysical, how we find meaning in our beliefs. So it's all things Sagittarius. It's our beliefs, our philosophies. What do we believe in? And why? Cancer in the ninth house is going to have a very deep belief in family. They're going to be spiritual people, but they when they take long journeys and stuff like that, it's going to be they want to feel comfort in their journeys. They would love to be surrounded by family, that love them, and their meaning is going to be built around family and nurturing and caring for other people. There's going to be their beliefs, their philosophies. Sagittarius in the ninth house, of course, is going to be someone who's very wise, someone who loves to talk about long journeys. who's always traveling, who's always here and there, who's been around, this place and that place possibly. They're very philosophical people. Um, it's our beliefs. It straight up and down. It's our beliefs. Do we believe in higher education? Do we want to pursue higher education? Do we value higher education? That's all of the ninth house. The 10th house is your public image, your reputation, career, ambition, and social status. So the 10th house is what people are going to talk about. So they're going to see your ascendant. People that you walk past on a daily basis, they're going to see your ascendant. But your 10th house is the reputation that you build up based off of the decisions that you make, the way that you live your life. So, each sign in the 10th house is going to be how you are described, how people see you, your social status. If you have, say, Libra in your 10th house, then you are known for someone who is very Libra-like, someone who's diplomatic, someone who likes beautiful things, someone who dresses beautiful, someone who's very beautiful or handsome. You're going to be known for being in long relationships because you love to be in long relationships. You're going to be known, when people see you, they're going to, that's so-and-so's girlfriend or that's so-and-so's boyfriend. You're going to be known by the relationships that you have been in. You stick up for the underdogs. You stick up for your friends. If you have a 10th house in Capricorn, which is exalted in Capricorn, you are a very serious person. You are a hardworking person. You are an achiever. You are an ambitious person. You are a powerful person. You have a lot of power. People in with Capricorn being exalted in the 10th house, it's a good time if you have, when Saturn is in Capricorn. Your 10th house can be activated so much. Like for those of us right now, we're in our Saturn in the universe Saturn is in Capricorn. And so for those who have Saturn in their 10th house, you might be experiencing a lot of hard, things just hitting you one after another. You can't catch a break, it seems. Like you really just going through everything right now. But if you keep working, and keep that Capricorn, code of ethics that you have, where you're ambitious and you every time you fall, you get back up and you try again. When Capricorn leaves Saturn and Saturn goes into another sign, which will be Aquarius, you will get the blessings that come with having mastered the lessons that Saturn brings. So, your 6th, your 2nd, and your 10th house, all, is your, also your 8th house is, your money houses. Those are the ways that you can bring in flows, and it will tell you the life paths, the kind of life paths that, you're going to go in. It's best to know each of these houses because they affect you in, such a tremendous way. Your 11th house is ruled by service. It's ruled by